All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this webinar on Taming Tables in Word. So today we're going to be looking at how you go about creating, formatting, and fixing tables. Right. My name is Lucy. I'm here with my colleague Ali, who is waving at you all, even though you can't see her. And just to let you know, we will be recording this session. I'm just looking over at Ali to see whether she started recording. Excellent, get a thumbs up for that. So in the webinar, if you have any questions, you just need to use the Q&A link. So you should be able to see there's a Q&A link. So any questions that you have, you just type in there and either Ali will answer them or she'll draw them to my attention. I'll answer them for everybody. There is also an ability to raise your hand at any point. So let's just see if that's working. So we'll have a go at that right now. Raise your hand if you hate using tables in Word. Yep, so I can see that some of you discovered how to raise your hands and also that you don't like using tables in Word. That is not unusual, can I say? Okay, so I'm just going to lower all of your hands. All right. Now, there is also a little poll I'd like to do before we get started. So let me just launch this poll. Okay. So it's just a question there about what it is you don't like about using tables. You can pick as many answers as you would like. While you're doing that, I will just point out, as with most of the webinars, I will be going quite fast, but we are recording it. It will go up onto our YouTube channel. So you can watch and rewatch as many bits of it as you want, as often as you want. Okay, so that resource will always be there for you. Okay, all right, so I'm just going to give you another 10 seconds on that poll and then we'll see how we go. All right, yeah. So yes, a lot of people finding that they are very time consuming. Yeah, a lot of people that frustration when you copy and paste from somewhere else in particular, or if you just keep adding in columns that it spreads, it disappears off the side of the page. That can be really frustrating. I can show you a really quick, really easy way to fix that. In fact, I'm going to show you 2 different ways you can fix that. And yeah, so we've got a few people with other issues. So hopefully we'll tackle those. If we don't, of course, remember that there is the Q&A panel. All right. So in that case, let's get started. I'll just turn off my video so you don't see me squinting at the screen as I try and find the right button. Okay. So let's start with the basics. Okay, go into Word here. So here we are in Word. So if you want to insert a table, remember it's something that we're going to be putting into a document. Anytime that you're putting something in, you use the Insert tab. So I'm going to go to Insert, and there you'll see we've got Table. So lots of choices about adding a table. If I click on that drop down, you'll see that the first thing it gives me is this grid, and you can see as I move around, that allows me to just sort of visually decide what my table is going to look like. See, so I know that, and it's telling me at the top, you see there at the top where it says insert table. As I move around, that changes to, that's a 3x4, that's a 3x5, and so on. So I can just do that and I insert my table and I can get going with that. Okay. I'm just going to Control Z to undo that, to go back to my insert menu. Other choices that we have here the insert table. That's going to open the dialog box. So it's given me the default, which is 5x2, so 5 columns by 2 rows. I can change this and say I want 4 by 3. Okay, so I want 4 columns and 3 rows. I can also tick this box here that says remember dimensions for new tables. Okay, so remember I put 4 by 3 there. If I say OK to that, it gives me a 4 by 3. Again, I'm just going to undo that. If I go to Insert Table, and again, I go to that dialog box, it's remembered that I wanted a 4 by 3. Okay. All right. Let's see other ways that we can do it. We can also draw a table. Now, I'll be honest with you, I've never really got on with this particularly well, but essentially I can come in here and I can say, yeah, I want a line there, and then I want it to extend to about there. Oops, you see, I told you I wasn't very good at this. And then it goes over there. You see, I hate this. I've never figured out why anybody would want to do this, but there you go. That is how you go about drawing your own table. Look, I've managed to draw 2 tables. Oh, I hate that thing. All right, so one of the things I want to show you is how can I quickly delete a table, because I'm sure you're aware if you just hit the delete key on your keyboard, what it does is it empties the contents of the table. It doesn't actually delete the table. So you'll see here when I'm on my table, I get my quick hover toolbar. So this quick hover toolbar, see, as I move away, it becomes more opaque. Less opaque, and as I move towards there, it starts to appear. So there's different things you can do here. Because I've got a table selected, it's given me these options about, inserting rows and columns, but also it gives me the delete options. So from here, I can select delete table, okay? This one here, that's just one table. I'm actually going to go now to my table tool. So you'll see how this is popped up. So this is a context sensitive tab. So if I've not got my table selected, I don't get those options. But if I come into my table, I get the design and the layout tabs. And from the layout tab, you'll see I've got delete. Okay, so I'm going to go to delete and delete table. Okay, so back to insert. So from the tables here, you'll see that the next one I've got this convert text to table. So let me put some text in, and I'm just going to say hello. I'm going to hit tab, say world, and I'm going to say this tab is some text. Okay, oops. So now if I select that, I can go table and I can convert the text to a table. Okay, so if I click on this, it comes up and it says, okay, so it's guessed for me how many columns and how many rows. The rows is based on the number of times I've hit return. So it's those carriage returns it's looking for. It's these paragraph marks it's looking for. And then I come in. This, by the way, this auto-fit behavior I'm going to talk about later. And then it's saying separate text at, and it's decided I've used tabs. It knows it's used tabs, and that's how it knows that I've got 4 columns, because this is some text is 4 columns. If I change that to paragraphs, you'll see that it changes to number of columns 1 and number of rows 2. Commas, I don't have any commas. That's another way. And other, I could pick something my own there. But I'm just going to say tabs and say OK. So there you go. That's another way that I can insert a table. Okay, so that's how you can convert text into a table. I'm just going to hit enter on there and come back to my insert. And we'll see from here as well, I can insert an Excel spreadsheet. This is actually going to put an object, it's going to put an Excel spreadsheet object into your Word document. So that would then have the full power of Excel. So you could use your formulas, you could do charting, you do anything, all those functions, anything you want, you could do in here, and it's actually contained within your document. I must say, personally, I tend to keep them separate. That's maybe just because I'm old school. And I would keep my Excel, and then when I want to, if I wanted to copy and paste my table from Excel into Word, I will do that, and that's something we'll be looking at later on. I also have here some quick tables. Okay, so these are some built-in quick tables. We've got some sort of calendar ones here. By the way, they aren't smart, those ones. So for example, if I put in this calendar for here, this May one, you'll see it's saying that May the 1st is Tuesday. And if I come down to my little date thing here, we will see that actually May, the Tuesday will be the 3rd. So the 1st of May is actually a Sunday this year. So it's not a particularly smart one. So let's have a go at deleting that. But yeah, there are these other quick tables. So for example, if you're going to do a double table, so you'll see here we've got the we've got 1, 2, 3 columns, and then 1, 2, 3 repeated. So that's a double column. We've got a matrix, a tabular list, and so on. So you've got a few there to choose from. Okay. You'll also notice it's grayed out. It says save selection to quick tables gallery. So if you've got a table that you use often, and you like the way that you've laid it out and you like the design of it, you can, once you've selected it, so if I select this one, you can come down here, quick tables, and you can say save selection to quick tables gallery, and it will then appear in this list of quick tables. So that's a great way to save some time if you do a similar kind of table often. All right, so I've actually got my table in now. So let's have a look at other things that I can now do. So we saw from the quick bar here, hang on, let me come up. There we go. No, it doesn't want to. Oh, there we go. I've clicked on it. There we go. I've now got these inserts. So if I want to, I can say I want to insert a row above. I could say I want to insert something to the left. Because I've got the whole table selected, that's why it's doing 4s and 2s. So because I've got the whole table selected, it's going to insert as many as I have selected. Does that make sense to people? Okay. Other things I can do, I can of course come up to my Table Tools Layout tab, so my Table Tools Layout tab, and from here I also have those options of insert rows above, insert below, and so on. I can, if I want, select a couple of columns and say delete, and I want to delete columns. You can delete individual cells. I would advise it, or if you're working in a table, treat it as a table. Delete columns and rows, not individual cells. So I can delete the columns from there, and we'll notice that that's then changed it. I could do, if I want to resize things, I can come along here and I can just grab it. So I've got my ruler turned on at the moment. If you don't have your ruler turned on, it's pretty much essential when you're working with tables. And that is, I think in the view menu, I'm hoping it's, yes, there it is, the ruler. Because it's something you can see, it's in the view menu. All right, so let's just come back to my layout. So I can do things like that. I can change the width. I can do other things as well. So when we're talking about the widths of columns, I can do other things as well. So I've got here height and width. So I can come in here and I can say I want that wider. So if you want some more precision, you can do. I could say I want to distribute the columns. So that's just make them all the same width. Okay, so that distribute columns has made them all equal width. I can come in and say I want to auto fit, so I can auto fit to the window, so that makes it as wide as it can be for this page layout, and I can do different things like that. Remember, if you've been to my other webinars, you'll know that these little launch things here, is where you find the good stuff. Okay, so this is where you'll find more details. It's going to launch a dialog box. So it's actually launching my table properties. Because this dialog box is so important, they've actually called it out and they've put it here. Okay, so just looking at what we've got here, we've got the table properties, and we've got here, I've got my preferred width, so it's 100%, that's the width of the page for the entire table, okay, and it's measured in percent. I can change that and make it centimeters, and say I want this to be a certain width. I've got my alignment, so where do I want my table to sit? So if I make my table smaller, okay, I'll just say okay to that. So I've made my table smaller, and I then come in here and I say I want it in the center. I say okay, you see that has actually centered my table. So this is how you've got these kind of alignment, and then you've also got text wrapping there. So if you want text to wrap around your table, you can choose that, okay? And then you've got more options of positioning. So where do you want it? Left, right, center, inside, outside, and is it relative to the column, the margin, or the page, and so on. So you've got lots of little options to look at there. Okay, I'm going to go with none. From here as well, you'll see we've got these borders and shading and options. So we'll come in here, and this is where you can really control the borders and shading. This is a legacy dialog box. So actually now I'm going to show you a different way to format, but we may pop in here later as well, so I can show you some of that really fine detail. But there are quicker ways to format your entire table and coming in here and messing about with this stuff. Okay. In here, so I've also got rows, so I can specify the height of my rows, and then I can move to the next row. So this is doing it on a row by row basis rather than the entire table. Okay, so I can come in and I can specify the height. This allows rows to break across page. So what that's saying is, if I get a page break in the middle of my table, do I want to keep an entire row together, or am I happy for the page break to go halfway through that row? Okay, so pretty much it depends on the nature of your table, but most of the times I would have that unticked because you probably don't want the row to break across a page. Okay, I'm going to tick it now because I am. There we go. We've got column here, so we've got again the preferred width, okay, of the column, and you can go through going next and previous to look at them. We come into the cell formatting, so this is like where is your text aligned. So my text aligned in the middle, but you can go, is it the top, the center, or the bottom? Okay, and then we can also go into the options here. Okay, so this is for an individual cell. we can do things like say we want the margins to be less, okay, and we want to wrap the text or we want to fit the text. And this can be, you see they're all grayed out, if I untick that, so I'm now doing the formatting for one individual cell. Okay, so I can do things like I can turn down the cell margins. And the final thing in the table properties is my alt text. So this is an accessibility thing. So this is if anybody is reading, has poor visibility and they're using a screen reader, this will help. So you put in the title of the table, the screen reader will read the title, and then it gives that person the option whether they want to hear the description as well. So the description, so while it's called the title, it's maybe the description of the table, and the description is actually the details of the table, if you like. Okay. All right. So that's your table properties. We've also got along here, we've got select. So do I want to select the cell, the column, select the row, or select the table? So if I click on that, it selects the whole table. If you want to select a column, you can just click and drag. Or if I want to select a row, I can click outside, and that's going to select the row. If I click above, it's going to select that entire column. But you can also use this. If you're finding that tricky, you can use this select. Okay. And viewing grid lines just allows you to see those grid lines. Remember when I was drawing that table earlier, I could have come here and said view grid lines to actually see what was going on with my table. All right, so I've got the draw and the eraser here. So the eraser I can see a little bit, I can see the pointer a little bit more. Let's say I pick my eraser and I come here and I just want to say, I want it to say hello world. Like that, I can do that. So that's a way that I can, sorry, Ali's just giving me one of those looks that I get sometimes from her when I show her something she hasn't seen before. So I can come in and I can erase individual bits of my table. So I can make it look just how I want it to, okay? So that is the eraser tool. And that is when also the draw tool, you see, I can see why people might want to use the draw tool. Oh, come on, draw from there to there. To come and do some fine tuning. You see how it's messing about with my table here, so I can actually draw a line down there if I want, and that will put in, come on, there we go. So I can see why the draw tool might be, you might want to use, but not to draw an entire table. Okay. All right, so we've got then, as I say, we've looked at the insert above below. We also have, you see how whenever I come near a column edge, I get a plus button. So if I do that, it's going to insert a column in there. The same with rows. Come on, there we go. Resizing as well. You'll see how I've got the double-headed arrow. You see I've got that double-headed arrow. That means I can click and drag as well. So I can do that. It's not going to let me do that one because I've split my cells here. Where will it let me do it? Here we go. Okay. And this is, you see, this as well is when you can get weird and wonderful things happening, is because I've been using that drawing table and eraser. I tend to not use them because they make me crazy. That's when crazy things happen. Other things that I have here is things like merging cells and splitting the table. So if I want to, I can select all of these and say I want to merge those cells. I can select this cell and I say I want to split that cell. It's going how many columns do you want to split it into and how many rows? 2 by 2. There we go. I've now got a 2 by 2. And if I want to split this table, I can grab this and say split the table, and that will now mean I've got 2 tables. I'm going to show you a really cool use for that split table later on, but a really cool use for it. Okay. So if I click in here, that brings me back into my table tools, my layout design. So other things that I have here is my text alignment here as well. So I can change that text alignment, and pretty much, that's going to be top left, that's going to be top middle, that's going to be middle, that's going to be bottom right, and so on. So it's up to you. I can also change the text direction. So let me type hello in here. I can change the text direction for that. So I can change it around to the side there, change it around to the side there, I'll put it back. Okay. This is another quick way to get to your cell margins, and this one is for the default cell margins. So this is where I can change the defaults for all of them. Remember before when I was in the table properties, that was an individual cell. This is for the whole table. Okay, and so if I do things like I change, If you're finding you're struggling to fit your words into your table, see how that just changed that. You still want it to be readable, but that's changed exactly where the text sits. Okay. All right. I have also got some data ones, so I can do some sorting. The repeat header row I'm going to show you later because that's awesome. I can also convert my convert to text. So before when I converted my text to a table, this is just doing the opposite of that. And I can also insert some basic formulas. Okay, so this is how I can do basic calculations, like I can do a sum or a count or something like that. So yeah, I can just insert a formula and I can put them in here, or I've got my paste functions if it's one of those, some of those basic ones. Okay. Or you can type in your own. If you're wanting to do anything complex, do it in Excel. That's my top tip for that one. All right, so that's really everything I wanted to show you about inserting tables. So I'll just wait for a moment before we get into the formatting. So before I go and have a look at this design and we look at some formatting in more detail, I'll just pause a moment in case there are any questions. Okay, we've not got any questions. Excellent. All right. So I'm just going to delete these tables out because they're looking a bit of a mess at the moment. So I'm just going to delete the tables. Also going to delete that so I can show you something later on. And I'm going to delete this table too. Delete table, that's what I want to do. Excellent. All right. Let me go back to inserting a table. So I'm just going to insert a table here. So let's have a look at some of these designs that we've been that we have here. So these are the inbuilt table styles. You see it's table styles here. So those of you who've attended styles training and the styles webinar, watched that online, you'll know that styles are really, really important in Word, and mostly we use them for paragraph and we use them for character, but we can also have table styles too. So there's some pretty good inbuilt ones. I'm just going to go here and I can just pick one of these. And there you go, I've just styled my whole, just pick any of those. Also, there's a little drop down here, so there are some more. So there are some plain tables, there's grid tables, you can get them to looking like that. We've also got some here. That's pretty intense, isn't it? That one there. I don't know. I'd like to look at that very much. But we've got all these other ones here. So you've got lots to choose from. It really depends on the nature of the data that you've got in your tables, which one will work. Because obviously some of these are more like for a grid, like a matrix and so on. And then these ones are more listy. So it's really up to you. If you want to just start off plain though, let me show you some other things that you can do here. Let's say I want to change the shading of my top row. I can come in here and I can say I've got shading and I want that one to be this blue color, or maybe I want it to be this blue color here. Okay. And I can do that. I can also come in here and look at my border styles and I can say, oops, sorry, let's just grab my whole one, and I've got my border styles in here. So I could say I want my borders to look like that. Okay, and I want my borders to look like that. Oops, I want a border over there. That's not working very well. There we go. So I can now just paint that border on. Okay, I'm just going to hit escape to get rid of that border pen. But I can also then come in here and go into, so that's border painting, but I can also come in here and say I just want my inside borders. I want no borders. I just want the outside border. So I can do all sorts of different things. Okay, so that's really, as I was saying, it's just made those tools easier to find. That's the same thing I could have done in that table properties dialog box. So it's exactly the same thing. It's just it's up here instead. So I can come in here, and if I want to, I can go into borders and shading, which opens up this old style dialog box. And this is where as well we can get really fancy and make sure we want all of them. And the color I want is actually I want gold, and we'll put gold in the grid one, and I'm going to say okay, and that's changed that. So you can get get really fancy with it. Like I say though, you might just want to use some of these inbuilt ones. Now, you'll notice here that I've got this banding of the rows, and that makes life really easy for someone who's reading my table if it's tabular information that is going across the page. And it's doing that by having my banded rows. You see over in this corner, I've got my table style options. Okay, so in the table style options, I've got a header row, or I might not have a header row. Okay, I could have a first column, or maybe I don't have a first column. I've got banded rows, or I don't, or I can have banded columns. I wouldn't have them both, choose one or the other. And then I've got things like total rows. So if I want to put in totals for if it's a financial information or something like that, I can also say there's a last column. So that would be, see, that's actually bolded it. Okay. So if I say I don't have a last column, or I don't have a first column. So that's how you go about controlling the formatting of your table. Okay. So there's lots and lots of options, but generally speaking, these ones will be good. Okay. I can also then just go clear, and I can go completely clear and go back to blank and start again. Okay. Oh, by the way, these colors that it's picking, it's actually picking them from my theme colors. So see, I've got my University of Adelaide theme colors here, and that's why it's where these colors are coming from. Okay, so it's picking up on those theme colors. All right. Also, just to show you, if you have, I can go and I can modify the table style, and I can also create a new table style. That's fairly advanced stuff. You probably don't need to worry about that too much. Okay, all righty. What I'm going to do now is I am just going to delete that table out. And I'm going to copy and paste something from, let's have a go at copying and pasting something from the web, and then I'm going to copy and paste something from Excel. All right. So on the web here, I have the academic year dates. So let's say that I want to use this semester 1. So I'm just clicking and dragging. Go down, come on, clicking and dragging. Okay, and then I'm going to go Control C to copy. I'm going to come into Word, and I'm going to go Control V to paste. Okay, now whenever you paste into Word, you'll get this little dialog. You get this little tiny paste option here. So you get a little clipboard here, and if I click on my clipboard, it shows me I've got some options. So I can keep the source formatting, so I can make it look as it looked on the website. I can merge the formatting, so that just means it's going to use the styles of my document to merge the formatting. I can use the, merge formatting. It's using the fonts I've got in the current place. Use destination styles means it's going to use one of the table styles from in here, or I could keep the text only. Yeah, I probably don't want to do that. That's pretty ugly. So for now, I will just say keep source formatting, and it goes in there. And now that I've done that, you can see that if I grab my table here as well, so I can see that there are those lines there. When I've not got anything selected, I can't really see, and this is where we can go in and we can say view grid lines. Okay, so now I can actually see where the grid lines are without actually having to put any formatting on it if I don't want to. All right. By the way, as well, if I just undo that, Control Z, when I go to paste, instead of just doing Control V and pasting, I have actually got on my paste menu, on my home menu, sorry, than the paste, I've got the drop down, and that also gives me those options for pasting. And I can also do things like make it HTML, or I can make it unformatted text or unformatted Unicode text. All right. Let's look at Excel now. So I'm just got open here our tip of the day. So if you don't follow us, Technology Services, on Facebook, you really should, to get the tip of the day. I'm going to come up to here. I'm going to use my Control and my Shift and my down arrow to select that first column, and then I'm going to use my arrow to go across, and I've just selected that entire table. And I'm going to go Control C to copy, and I'm going to go over to Word, and I'm going to use Control V to paste. Okay. So I've pasted in there a pretty ugly looking thing. Let's go back up to the top of my document. So you'll see here, so this is one of the things that's quite annoying about this. I'm just going to go plus, there we go. This is a really common problem with Word, is that you're like, well, where's the rest of my table? And because I can't see it and I can't change it and I can move that, but where's the end of my table? I can't move it. It's so frustrating. Okay. Well, one of the things I could try to do is I could say, well, hang on, maybe if I go to my page layout and change my orientation and make it landscape, maybe that will work. But no, it's still not there. I could come up and I could drag this individually and move things around, but sometimes that's not going to work. So I'm just going to say Control Z to that. And so one of the things, there are two ways that you can handle this. Okay, so there are two excellent ways to handle this. The first one is to change your view and look at the draft view. So we're currently looking at what's called page layout view. So essentially it's going to show you what, print layout. It's going to show you what it looks like as a printed document. If I go to my view menu here, I've got all sorts of other views, and the one that we're after is the draft view. So if I click on the draft view, you see I can see my whole table from there. So I can see my whole table and I can see the width of my page. So this is the width of my page that I can see on my ruler. Okay, and I can see that there are these other columns here. So if I kind of drag these on, drag them, and drag, and drag. And so I can have a little bit of control over what I'm doing here. And so I can drag that along. I don't know why that doesn't want to drag. There we go. And I can pull it all on. Oh, look at that. That's great, isn't it? There we go. Yeah. All right. So that could be a bit fiddly, but it does at least give you that control. Okay. All right. I am just going to go back to my print layout view here. And now you can see that I've got all of these on here. Okay. All right. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm just going to delete that table. I'm going to show you another way that you could do that. And this time I'm going to go to, what am I doing? Page layout. Let's just go back to being portrait. And again, I'm just going to paste that table in from Excel. So there's another way that we can do this, is if I come into my table tools, I'm just going to scroll up to the top. I'm going to go to my table tools and we're going to look at the layout. Remember I told you I was going to show you this Autofit later? So let's have a look at Autofit now. If I click on that drop down, I can Autofit contents, Autofit window, or do the fixed column width. So I'm just going to say, let's Autofit to the window. And there you go. So that has now got all of my table fitting onto this page. Okay. Now it doesn't look very good because of the nature of the table. So I may want to have, I may want to say, we'll make that one bigger, and then of course that all breaks it. So again, I'm going to come in here and say Autofit contents. So I can do window or contents. They just have slightly different results in the width of the columns, but essentially they will both then fit on your page. So let me now go to my page layout and change it back, because I do think that this really needs to be landscape. So I'm going to come here and make that landscape, and you'll notice now that it's still auto-fitting. Okay. So for some reason this column is really big, but I can now make those individual changes if I want to, but at least it's got everything on the page for me. Okay. All right, so another tip that I've got for you is, wouldn't it be handy, when I'm scrolling down here, you'll see that I've got how many pages is it? I've got lots and lots of pages, so I can't see that underneath here. I've got 11 pages. And wouldn't it be handy, because by the time you're down at page 7 or 8, you've probably forgotten what these column headings are, and you don't want to be heading back up and say, what are these again? So all I need to do is I select this column here, row. I select this row here. I go to my layout and I say repeat header row. Okay. And then when we scroll down, you'll see that that header row is on every single page. How easy is that? Okay. I'm just going to undo that because I want to show you something else as well. You might go, well, that's all very well and good, Lucy. But actually, my tables are more complicated than that, and I have multiple rows that should appear on every page. So let's have a go at that. So I'm going to pick these 3. Okay, so it finishes with the win plus D. Okay, so that's what it finishes with, and I'm going to say repeat header rows. Now, when I scroll down, you'll see that I've still, whoops, oh, it went crazy. It's because it was still thinking. You see now how my number of pages is now changed to 16, so it was still thinking. But now you can see I've got the column heading, I've got the rand, and I've got that win plus D. So that appears on every single page. Okay. And again, And if I just go Control Z, that's going to take that away. So there you go. And that's that repeat header row. Just so you know, that is also in the properties. So if I come into the properties here and I come to row, it's this repeat as header row at the top of each page, and that will achieve the same thing. All right. Okay. Now, because I've made this table, I've made the page landscape rather than portrait, it may be in the middle of my portrait document. Now, if I just go and change that page layout, it's going to change it all through my document. So I'd like to show you how you control that. So how you make sure that you can mix up your portrait and your landscape. So the portrait and the landscape, I need to do that using section breaks. Okay, so it's the only way you can do it is by using section breaks. So let me just show you that quickly. And in the meantime, I'm going to show you another quick tip, which I love, because here I am at the top of my table. I'm at the top of my table, and I go, well, hang on, I want to put something above my table. If I hit enter, oh, it's worked. Okay, that doesn't always work. Oh, that's great, that's worked today. But let me show you another way that you can do that. Is if I go into my table tools layout, I can hit split table. And if I hit split table, that will also give me that paragraph marking at the top there. So that's actually allowing me to put something above my table, because that hitting enter does not always work. Okay, yeah, so it's a bit of a sneaky one. As I say, make sure you've got the top row selected. So it has to be that top row selected, and you go to your table tools layout and you say split table, and that will give you that paragraph mark at the top, so you can then do anything that you want. All right. So let's have a look at how we go about doing our section breaks. Okay, so if I come into my page layout tab, I've got my page layout tab here, and I've got breaks. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say, I want you to do a section break, and I want you to do a next page section break. Okay. So when I come up here, you'll see that I've now got my section break. And this is why, by the way, I have all of this stuff turned on. So if you're on your home tab, you'll see this is this paragraph marker. If I don't have my paragraph marker turned on, I can't see what I'm doing. Okay, I honestly can't understand how anyone can work with them turned off. Okay, so turn them on so you can see what's going on. All right, so this section break here, if I select above the section break, and I can hit enter there just to give me a little bit of space there, I can now come to my page layout and I can change the orientation to portrait. So we've now got that portrait at the top, and then we've got our table at the bottom. Okay. And then if I want to do another section break at the bottom, I can do. I'm just going to come in here and show you another tip that I've got. Is if you're in the last cell of your table and you hit tab, it puts in a new row for you. Okay, so it just keeps putting in new rows for you whenever you do that. Okay, but that wasn't what I wanted to show you. I wanted to come in here. I've got here, if I go again to my page layout, breaks, and I go section break next page, and I put in another page. So now I can change this one to orientation portrait. So that's how you go about having some, if you've got a table in the middle of your document and you need to go portrait for just to help your width of your table, then you can do, but you just need to make sure you're putting those section breaks there. Okay. All right. So I have shown you everything that I wanted to show you about tables. Because I know they can be very frustrating to work with, but hopefully you've picked up a few tips that will help you with it. So what we've looked at is, sorry, let me just go back up to the top of my document. So what we have looked at today is we've come in, we've had a look at the insert, so all these different ways that you can insert tables. You can choose to draw one yourself, you can just insert it and open up the dialog box, you can draw it, but I would advise it, you can convert text to tables, put in your Excel spreadsheet, or use these quick ones. Or you can copy and paste from something else in a tabular format. We've had a look at the layout, so some of these things, the goodies that you can find in properties, about inserting above, below, that's splitting the table tip. We've got the Autofit So that Autofit, those of you who've struggled with having your tables hanging off the edge of the page, hopefully that one will sort you out. As you saw, it doesn't always leave you with perfect results, but it does at least mean that you've got all of your table there to work with. Okay. We looked at the distributing rows and the columns as well. So remember, that's just going to make them all the same width. And we looked at some of these alignments sort of options and sorting, converting to text and formulas. On the design front, we had a look at all of the built-in quick style tables and then how you can fine-tune those as well. So your table style options, don't forget you've got over here around header rows and first columns and all those sorts of things. And then we also had a look at how we could do our borders, either through this this box here and things like our drop downs, or by going actually into our borders and shading. Okay. All right, we had a look as well at that, keeping your header row at the top, so that repeat header row at top. And yeah, I think that was just about what we did, isn't it? All right, so I'm just going to launch a quick poll. This webinar series is a new thing for us. We're really interested in knowing what you think about it. So please just have a go at answering that poll for us. Thank you. Don't forget that we have the tip of the day on Facebook. If you follow Technology Services on Facebook, we have our next fortnightly webinar is same time, same place, and we're doing charts. So it's all going to be in Excel. We'll be looking at how to present your data in a visual fashion. So we're doing charts. The recording of this webinar will go up hopefully by the end of the day. We'll manage to get this up. Other than that, if anyone's got any questions, I'm going to hang around for another 10 minutes or so. So if you have got any questions, please feel free to type them now. Other than that, thanks very much for coming, and hopefully we'll see you next time.